Ryomen Sukuna is one of, if not the most important character in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, but with such importance, Sukuna fills a role that's destined to drive a lot of hate towards him. That role is none other than the main antagonist. Right now, we're seeing Sukuna run a gauntlet on our heroes, and in today's video, let's talk about why Sukuna might actually be a problem. What's up guys, versus Gambly here, and in today's video, we'll be going over all the discourse regarding Sukuna and why Sukuna is being said to be Jujutsu Kaisen's biggest problem. If you enjoy JJK videos like these, go ahead and subscribe. You'll get more videos and we'll both be happy. Since chapter 212 of the manga, Sukuna has been on a constant rampage, killing or at the very least defeating everyone he faces in the lines of combat. He started off by defeating Angel in a last-ditch effort to stop the sorcerer from using Jacob's ladder a second time. He then realizes that he got nerfed against Yuji, but proceeded to 1v2 both Maki and Yuji and got away mostly unscathed. He goes on to kill Yorozu before having a war declared directly to him from none other than Gojo Satoru. All these things he's been doing weren't something of trouble for people. People loved it in fact. But once Sukuna reached his full power and stepped into the final battlefield, it all went downhill. Sukuna goes on to extreme diff Gojo Satoru, killing him and becoming even stronger in the process. Kashimo pulls up looking to learn a lesson and he gets killed. Yuji and Higuruma arrives to fight Sukuna and Sukuna kills Higuruma. Yuta arrives to fight Sukuna with Yuji and Sukuna supposedly kills Yuta. Maki arrives to fight Sukuna alone until Yuta comes back and Sukuna goes on to hit her with a black flash, taking her out of the picture. But it's that's the problem people have been having with Sukuna. I like to call it the Sukuna cycle. To explain what the cycle is, I'll go through the steps and show how it's been present throughout this entire ordeal. It starts off with a character pulling up to fight Sukuna. Sukuna does end up fighting them, but then they show off, doing something insane against the King of Curses. This big display hypes up the fandom, leading them to believe Sukuna is about to get cooked. But lo and behold, the final step of the cycle is that Sukuna just ends up cooking them. Before even going into how it's present, you probably already connected the dots. Gojo versus Sukuna. A new character pulls up on Sukuna to fight him. During this specific fight, there were tons and tons of displays for Gojo to hype up the fandom. To go over them, we got chapter 226 when Gojo shoots Sukuna into his shrine, disabling the domain expansion altogether. We also have chapter 229 when Gojo manages to damage Sukuna enough to the point where he gets his domain expansion off 0.01 seconds faster. This led to Gojo finally being able to attack Sukuna while he's completely vulnerable, almost leading to his win. This is mirrored in another reader hype moment in chapter 232 as Gojo knocks Sukuna out with a black flash, the strongest black flash we have ever seen in the series. But now we enter the last moment of this step, chapter 235. Gojo was able to kill Agito in the chapter prior, bait Sukuna into believing he would shoot reversal red at him, and combine both blue and red to create his ultimate technique, hollow purple. This moves us on to the third step, where this hype moment leads the reader to believe that Sukuna is cooked. Kusakabe actually exemplifies this beautifully here, as he literally takes the last quote of the chapter saying that Gojo wins. But then we enter the next chapter and he's dead. And that's step 4 of the cycle. This cycle resets in literally the same chapter as Kashimo pulls up with a fire ass double spread. That's step 1. Step 2, a hype moment. Kashimo fights without his curse technique for like one panel and gets blocked, but then he turns it on and starts pummeling Sukuna. Given the fact that Sukuna was heavily weakened from his fight with Gojo, majority assumed this guy Kashimo actually had a chance. But less than 12 chapters later, I'm not even kidding, Kashimo dies. But don't worry, because the cycle continues as Higuruma and Yuji pull up. Surely they will end Sukuna, right? Step 1, pull up. Step 2, go crazy. Step 3, give the readers hope, and step 4, die. This happens in literally the same way with Yuta as well, as he pulls up, goes crazy, gives the readers hope, and dies instantly. Heck, it literally just happened again. In the same exact chapter Yuta falls victim to the Sukuna cycle, Maki pulls up. She goes crazy in the next chapter with her throwing Sukuna around. She gives the reader hope with her soul slashing sword, but then gets violated by probably the second strongest Black Flash we've ever seen in the entire story. The Sukuna cycle is strong, and it's bad enough that Kusakabe has entered the battle in step 1. But with that said, does this pose an actual problem in the story? Well, yes and no. I do empathize with the people who believe that this is redundant. The fact that the battle Sukuna has had can be reduced to such a low level cycle is crazy, and I do think Gege should have done more to make things more complicated and chaotic. Earlier when I said step 3 was that everyone believed Sukuna could get cooked, I meant to use that word lightly because it was incredibly obvious that no one that was in the cycle was going to defeat Sukuna. During the Gojo fight, if someone with more than a surface level reading comprehension believed that Gojo defeating Sukuna was a good idea writing-wise, I don't know what to tell them. It's been established since chapter 11 of the manga that the next generation were going to be the forefront of the battle. If Gojo defeated Sukuna, what the hell would the next generation be there for? Gojo would have killed Yorame and Kenjaku right after, so there was no need for anyone to do any training or anything of the sort. It also would have reinforced another problem people have with the series, the Gojo problem, where Gojo just wipes everyone's asses after the smoke settles and wins the day for everyone. Garbage. So this conversation is insanely nuanced because while Sukuna doing the same shit over and over again can get repetitive, it's also something that shouldn't be shadowed just because of its nature. The nature of Sukuna winning. Sukuna winning against a couple of teenagers and rookie sorcerers with experience so low that they don't know the full extent of their curse techniques isn't illogical, but people want it to seem that way because Sukuna is winning. They reduce it to just Sukuna has plot armor or Sukuna is loved by Gege. Now, while I won't disagree with the sentiment that Gege loves Sukuna, this just isn't the case here. For 253 chapters of the manga, Sukuna has been repeatedly reinforced as the pinnacle of the verse. Yuta during his fight with Sukuna literally says he and Yuji would have got one shot had Sukuna not fought Gojo first. Yuji also confirms to us that Sukuna just plainly is the strongest sorcerer of all time. So for all of this hype, the community wants to believe that Sukuna should have lost to anyone he's fought so far. Are we being serious here? On the same topic, all of these fights serve a purpose, and Sukuna going through them as well serves a purpose. In Sukuna's fight with Gojo, Gojo losing sets us up perfectly with the fact that the new generation will have to be the ones to finish Sukuna off. With Sukuna versus Kashimo, we learn Kashimo's burden from being the strongest, and we get a look into Sukuna's definition of love. In Sukuna versus Higuruma, we get to see what talent Higuruma inhabited. Sukuna cuts it short for us, but in the end, Higuruma still took away Sukuna's cursed tool. Something very pivotal. Yuta vs Sukuna gave us lore on the soul and an insight to the talent Yuta has as a sorcerer, as well as a look at what Yuji has recently accomplished. Maki vs Sukuna gave us more implications on the soul in our first ever Sukuna Black Flash. Delete all of this and let, I don't know, Higuruma kill Sukuna here and that's it. Don't you see the problem here? Garbage! Now, with that being said, this wouldn't be a full discussion of the problem if we didn't propose a couple solutions in return. By now, I think we already established that the main problem is the way Sukuna is winning rather than the fact that Sukuna is winning at all. And so in these situations, we can break down some of Sukuna's wins and discuss some changes so that it'll make us all happy. Let's start off with the Gojo fight. This, I can definitely see what people had a problem with. Any events before chapter 236 I don't really want to change because I think they were handled perfectly. But in chapter 236, things went south. The main elephant in the room is the fact that Gojo got killed by an attack he surely should have been able to see. But the problem is that it doesn't really matter regardless. Gojo's six eyes are able to recurse energy, but we've seen the groundwork Gege put in place for this outcome to make sense regardless of that fact. In chapter 224, Gojo sees a dismantle go at him, but he doesn't do anything to dodge or block. But why would he? he has infinity. And so would it be far-fetched to say that with this knowledge, Gojo wouldn't be trying to dodge a dismantle coming at him while his infinity is up? In chapter 234, Gojo, facing Mahoraga and all, gets his arm cut off by the exact same dismantle as the one Sukuna used on Gojo a couple chapters later. Again, reinforcing that Gojo isn't going out of his way to dodge attacks that just wouldn't hit him in the first place. So regardless of Gojo seeing the dismantle or not, we know that Gojo isn't dodging them. For me, that's not where the problem lies. I've always assumed Gojo just didn't dodge the dismantle and died because of it. But Gege went ahead and off-screened the killing blow, throwing readers off. So all we have to do is give a good scene showing us how exactly Sukuna played his card into finally letting off that last dismantle. With that explained to us, Sukuna would look like less of a plot armor merchant than people assume he is. For Sukuna vs Kashimo, honestly I don't see much complaints from people. But the fight right after, oh yeah, that's where the controversy continues. When Sukuna fights Higuruma and Yuji, he receives the death penalty and confiscation. But guess what? Lo and behold, Sukuna's cursed tool that he got almost 10 chapters ago gets taken away instead of his cursed techniques. This was a crazy thing to happen in Sukuna's favor because of all the BS that could have occurred. Sukuna gets to keep his cursed technique and only loses his cursed tool that he literally used once. Let's fix that and make it known beforehand that Higuruma's rules weren't completely known to him. After all, Higuruma was described to be some crazy prodigy, understanding his cursed technique and all that BS. A lack of experience shouldn't be too telling when we recently got confirmation that they cheated to train. We'll eventually see what the cheating is, maybe Gege will prove me wrong, but that's just one thing I change. It just gives readers a bad taste in their mouths about something that could have been a deciding blow. Garbage. Now, Yuta vs Sukuna. This is the only fight where I saw something that truly pissed me off on the spot, and that, ironically, was how he won. To put this into perspective, Sukuna had all 4 of his hands out of his control. 2 of them were sliced and 2 of them were held down by Rika. Sukuna gets toasted by Jacob's ladder, but all of a sudden, Sukuna's hand is just free and he lets off a world-cutting slash. This was BS. Rika literally still has Sukuna in her grip after the Jacob's ladder and everything. Literally the last thing we saw is that she had him under locks, but all of a sudden she slashed up and Sukuna could move freely. Why the hell would Sukuna let Jacob's ladder hit him if he could have done the chance and let off a world-cutting slash without taking the hit? And so with all of that said, the only thing I would change here is to let Rika slip up on screen, letting Sukuna go because he got hit by Jacob's ladder and he's about to get hit by Yuji. But because of Megami, it cost the sorcerers the W. That's honestly the only thing I would change from this fight. And finally, we enter Maki vs Sukuna. There was one big thing that everyone was talking about, and that was the Urami glaze at the end of chapter 252. Essentially, Urami tells us that throughout all of his fights, Sukuna has yet to go all out. Now, given we still haven't seen Sukuna use any of his flames, I thought that was pretty obvious, but apparently that just pissed people off even more. Mostly because during his fight with Gojo, he almost died multiple times over. The thing is, we already knew this, and this was never new. In chapter 234, Kusakabe says Sukuna has to hold back while Gojo goes all out. I think there should be a distinction between going all out and trying your hardest. Sukuna tried his hardest against Gojo. I don't think anyone disagrees with that, but he didn't use everything he has. How Sukuna won the fight isn't bad in my opinion, and so with that, nothing there should be changed. In this video, we made it known that Sukuna's gauntlet has seemed to be a bit repetitive, but the real problem lies in how exactly Sukuna is winning against the people he's fighting against rather than the fact that Sukuna is winning in the first place. And so I explained some instances and gave my own criticisms to the ones I couldn't explain. But now, what do you think? Let us know your problem with Sukuna and JJK right now and what has been bothering you about his deadly gauntlet. Comment it down below. Anyways, if you enjoyed this, of course, go ahead and subscribe. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.